Welcome to another episode from the Ed. One of my first YouTube videos was on this Oliver typewriter, which sadly I haven't gotten as far on as I kind of predicted on that video. A lot of condition issues. Basically its type bars are bent quite a bit because they've been dropped on its head. And the biggest problem is how to get those type bars back into position and so forth. And the original thought was to take the thing apart and paint it and clean it and restore it and so forth. And you start looking at this thing and you start feeling a little disheartened about how difficult and complicated it might be, especially being sorting out the exact dimensions of those type bars. So what's nice is when you start doing this YouTube channel stuff and you start talking about people, about what you're up to, some folks seem to find another project for you. In this case, this Oliver number 9 was given to me by a friend whose last name happens to be Oliver. And the nice thing about this one is the type bars haven't been bent. It has the same sort of condition issues as far as rust and so forth. So restoration is still kind of a challenge on it. Its paint is kind of swollen and so forth, and swollen. And obviously, in order to make it look nice, I'd have to strip it completely down, which is also a lot of work. So you start getting a little disheartened a little bit, and you go, that's a lot of work. And so you keep looking on CraigsList, and then you find for $50 an absolutely beautiful example of a machine that is in amazing preservation. This is an Oliver number 5, and I'd like to show you a bit about it. And basically its biggest condition issues is it simply needs lubrication like any other machine that's over 100 years old. And it's missing a few keycaps, which I think I can take care of with 3D printing. Okay, so this typewriter, its serial number is 200,165. And looking at the database, it looks like it was probably made around 1909. The features that also probably kind of date it is the machine doesn't have a tabber button, and it doesn't have the backspace feature. And looking at the database, it looks like those were probably introduced shortly after this serial number, so it probably explains it pretty well, its age and everything, probably about 1909. The other possibility is because it is a long carriage machine, maybe those features weren't included in this design because of long carriage, or the newest features don't seem to wind up being included on specialty machines for some reason in production lines. So that's I guess a potential explanation. The other thing it's I guess of note is a couple of the keycaps are missing. A couple of the keycaps, interesting enough, look like they might have been taken off of a comptometer calculator. So I'll have to look at my comptometer calculator. And of course it's dusty. Everything's a bit stiff. Needs to be lubricated and cleaned, which you'd expect from a 100-year-old machine. The nickel plating is in just excellent condition, and so is the paint finish, considering it's over 100 years old. Even the drawstring is intact. It's the original drawstring, near as I can gauge, and the spring is intact. And it seems like it's kind of a default problem with these machines is the drawstring at the very minimum is broken, and the spring itself is probably broken. So this guy is just really nice, and it gives me some actual inspiration to actually work on the other machines, which is really nice because you look at them and you think, well, that's kind of a hopeless effort, isn't it? It's a lot of work and they're kind of complicated. But when you see this, you really do get inspired that maybe it's possible to have something that's really nice. At the very minimum, at least I've got this one I can put in the living room after I dust it off and oil it and everything. Put a ribbon in it, see how it runs. The history on it's kind of interesting, at least the recent history that I have on it. I bought it from a fellow named Henry. He was going to Montana State in Bozeman, and they had a storage locker apparently full of typewriters, and they were just throwing them away. And so he picked up this one and another typewriter. It wasn't a Oliver. He got that one up and running. This one apparently never got around to doing, and he had to move. And of course he had to lighten his load. And so he was kind enough to sell it to me for $50, which is really nice of him. And, it's hard to imagine something that's over 100 years old being in this good a shape. Can you imagine what a An inkjet printer of today would last. You know, it's the inkjet runs out of ink and you throw the thing away, and it's not really worth trying to do a whole lot of work to. So anyhow, clean this guy up, oil it, put a ribbon in it, and see how it performs. So I've blown the thing off in the shop there, and a bit more dust than I kind of anticipated. I was thinking it was going to be pretty low, so I probably should have taken it outside. I think the next thing to do is just kind of wipe it down with you know, some gentle cleaners, and I think probably just water will do. I did a little experiment here in the back, make certain it's I think it's an oil-based paint, so I don't think it's like a really sensitive lacquer that will come off. At least it looks like a very hardy paint. So I'm going to see if I can figure out how to take this guy off. If I remember right, it's a bit of a procedure here. You have to do, I believe you hit the button here. Maybe it's that way. And hit tab, or the right key, I should say. And then the old carriage comes off. Hopefully without too much trouble here. My cable's hung up. Okay. This one I thought had a nice hook for this purpose, but maybe not. Ooh, boy, put you back on there. Okay, let's try that again. So there's a little parking feature on this guy, and it should have parked on that. What did I need to do to make that work? Let's see here. Very carefully this time. Don't quite want to go onto that hook. There's a little hook down here. Why aren't you going on there? That parking hook is not working. It's supposed to. Okay, I think it's been bent. Okay, I think that's the problem. Okay. Alright. Okay, so I was trying to take the carriage off, and there's a little parking hook here. Let's see if I can give you the details on that. See, here, I take you off here. All the wires. Okay. So there's a little hook feature that this guy sits. Will go to hook onto. If you can see that there. There it is, right there. And it's been bent somehow. Somebody's bent that back. I should have more of a. This little feature here is supposed to go into. Let's see if I can show that. Might be easier once the thing's off. So anyhow, so I gotta bend this guy back. Okay, what this guy will do. Yeah. Hopefully, get this guy to go over. Okay, then I have to hit the right margin up, and now it hooks. Very good. Okay. Well, this is one of those classic problems of trying to get a camera view into something that just doesn't work very well, so I think I got it fairly well. So hopefully you can see the point where this guy is going to, once I hit the right margin, stop. And I guess I gotta hit this at the same time while I'm doing this backwards. This machine. That's the wrong one. I was hitting the left. Okay. Alright, so to move along, you can see that hook. I've bent down a little bit now because it was bent up earlier, and it reaches the parking location. Now, if I keep moving the carriage, it'll be very nicely parked on there. Yay! And you can see it sure looks like it's the original. It looks like it's literally just twine that you would use for baling hay or something. Just a very light version of that. Just the old time twine. So there it is, all nicely parked. Okay, so with the back end off, you can kind of see the little hook here, hopefully, on here, and where it lands on this little working location here. It really makes it a lot easier to get this guy on and off. It's a really kind of a nice feature of the Olivers, I guess. Most other typewriters, I guess, you can't just pop the carriage off so easily. And as you can see, it just makes getting to the back side of all this stuff so much easier. And then the carriage, from my first view, looks pretty good. I'll put that off to one side. And I guess the big thing now is to figure out how to do a little light cleaning on the on this guy. Basically, I got just a lot of light little dust on the inside of this guy. I got to kind of get out. At least I'd like to kind of get some of the worst of it, anyways. And probably just, it looks like so far I've just tested this little area here with water, and it looks like it's probably safe to use. So I'll wipe this guy down a bit and then look into oiling. Okay, so got it blowing off a little bit more, and I'm just going to give it a quick little further dusting with the little hand brush here and see if I can liberate a little bit more of the stuff that I can't quite get otherwise. So far, I'd say it's really good. I mean, this little bit of dust back here isn't going to really matter a whole lot. If I can liberate a little bit more, then I'll blow it out a little bit off, and then I'll give it a little let go of the compressed air. I think the biggest thing is with a brush you can kind of liberate the dust without scratching the paint too much, and probably, unless this thing's been maintained by some servicemen, who knows how long ago, there's probably nobody's been in here since it was built. It's really quite conceivable it's never been touched. So paint's probably pretty virgin anyways. Biggest thing is I don't want to break this nice draw cord. It's definitely the original cord, and it looks so primitive. It's just a really, I don't know, rough looking kind of cord you do for just some sort of throwaway little bit of string that it doesn't look like something you'd use on a commercial product. I mean, it's such a crude looking string. You can see that really well there, but it just, I don't know if it's frazzled over the years. It could very well be. It's over 100 years old, but you'd think you'd use a little heavier material, but maybe that's all they had. Okay. Anyhow, blow this guy off a bit more, and then I'll wipe it down a little bit and then oil it. I'd say the majority of the machine's been cleaned. I got a little bit of a, it was kind of a bit of a chicken on the using water. A lot of these early machines, I'm not sure about the Oliver and the Oliver typewriters and typewriters in general, but a lot of the adding machines and sewing machines of the day used a high volatile lacquer coating, and that appears to be pretty easily damaged by water, from what I understand. So I chickened out and instead used my favorite other cleaning solution, which is just sewing machine oil, which maybe I'll pay for it in the long run with more dust collection on this guy. What I've done is I've used these really nice little cloth cotton pads that you buy. I think they're for cleaning makeup off or something like that, and just very lightly put a few drops of oil on, and then rub it all around and get all the crud off, and then systematically wipe off the excess oil with these guys. And just I've been going back and forth constantly with wiping that little tiny bit of oil. It was just enough to remove the dust and the grime, and then get the excess oil off. And I don't know if I've still got all the oil off. It got some really nice shine though, so it looks really nice. Like I say, maybe it'll collect a bit more dust, so I might, maybe I'll regret it. But I wasn't sure. I should research this probably a bit more on the on Oliver, how to clean this guy. But anyways, that's what I've done here so far. Is I've just used very light, as little as I can get away with sewing machine oil, and then systematically wiping it down, getting the crud off, and then getting that excess oil off. So hopefully I got the majority of that oil off. I might have to wipe it a few more times, but it looks really nice. Whereas using the water, it just seemed like the shine, the finish was kind of going away. And I kind of did it in a few little obscure little spots back here, and it just looked a little bit duller, and I was a little worried that if I kept doing that with the just regular water, it could be just regular water is fine, I don't know. It's something I should probably research before going any further on this, but I think the next thing I'm going to do is a light bit of lubrication, and I think once again I'm just going to try to use sewing machine oil, and maybe on the really light areas through here I might use clock oil, and then the heavier rollers probably just WD-30 automotive oil. And I don't know if that's really something to show on the video here. I guess I could, if there's any points to show, I guess I'll do it on the video, but you know, largely it's, I'm sure it's mostly it's pretty obvious, I would hope. Basically, if it looks like it moves, a little drop of oil, it'll probably go a long ways. But try and keep it down to the smallest we'll draw. I don't know if that's normal or not, but that seems like it has good travel. There's the challenge is getting some of these little spots here, and the little oiler, sewing machine oiler is kind of handy. My only complaint about it is it tends to maybe deliver a little too much oil. Of course, I need the carriage on in order to get this guy to move, so maybe I'll tend to the carriage a little bit and then put it back on. Okay, carriage, very long fellow. Undoubtedly these rollers need oiling. They are, you know, probably the biggest culprits in the motion in this guy, so I think just a couple little drinks of oil on these pivot points. Hopefully it'll wick right in there, this light, really light oil. And I think there's an oil hole maybe in these guys, I think. And well, they freed up quite a bit. Feels really good. Next thing I've been kind of doing is cleaning this paper roller here with just ever so lightest bit of, once again, sewing machine oil. It seems counterintuitive to use even thinking oil on something that's got a grip paper, but it seems like it just brings the rubber back to life a little bit, gives it a little more life. Looks like to me it gets the crud off really good. And then once again, if you can get all that excess oil off to where it, you know, pretty much nothing left but the slightest film that might have sucked into the pores a little bit, I think it's helpful. Anyways, so far, the only other example I've done so far is just the Burroughs adding and listing machine, and that really did seem to make its roller a lot happier. Seems to make it a lot happier. I don't know if it's a good idea or not, but that's what I'm doing. A little bit of sewing machine oil. It just cleans up so nicely, and it's seems to put a little bit more life back into this roller. Does look like the type has whacked this guy pretty hard. It might be they were doing lots of carbon copies, because you can definitely see the type is really smashed into this rubber quite a bit more than I think I've seen in the other typewriters. So it might be that this guy, when he did work, he did work pretty hard, perhaps. It looks a lot nicer. I don't know if that's picking up on the camera or not, but it's all cut off and it looks a lot more lively. And I'll get that excess off. Well, I've probably oiled this guy about as good as I can. Everything moves so much nicer now. Not that I was really all that bad before. Doing it with oil, it certainly does bring out a nice shine. Whether or not I'll pay for it with dust collection later on is hard to say. But I think I'll put the carriage back on and see if I can do some little more last minute lubes here, and maybe call it good here. See if I can get this guy back on as gracefully as I did getting it off. So, I've got some little hooks here that this guy hooks into and goes onto this rail. Actually, before I do that, I think what I'll do is I'll give that rail a little bit wiping. That's one thing I haven't done. I haven't given that a little bit of wipe, so I think I'll do that and get some of this film of haze that's probably on this guy off real quick. You can kind of see where the rollers over the years have kind of dug into the nickel plating a little bit. Give that a little bit more room here, or at least wiping anyways. I'll get a new more cloth here. And this guy is I think the left. Is it the left or the right? Column space. Working guy. How's that guy work? There we go. Thank you. Okay, so this guy definitely needs some oil. I guess you flip it down to move it. Oh yeah, so much better. And I'm just going to kind of get the excess off, and then I'll get also some of that dirt off. Oh yeah, much better. So up is locked against this little notch where this guy goes into, and it moves back and forth very nicely. Okay. All right. I think I got that. Okay, so let's see if I can get this carriage on without disaster and damaging anything. That's the one thing, it's extra long, and it's as it is a regular Oliver, it's kind of awkward, and a little bit of experiment with the other ones. This one's it's even longer. Line that roller up. Second roller. Well, it seems a lot happier. I probably could look underside there and see if I can find a few places to oil, and then I guess I'll put the ribbon cables in and give it a try. Okay, I've basically oiled about every single little pivot that I can see anyways, with the tiniest little bit of oil, and wipe off any excess as much as I can. And there's probably a few spots that I'll have to come back and hit if I'm having any further troubles, but so far the machine seems to be running pretty well, so near as I can gauge, everything seems to be pretty happy. Play with it some more here. Next thing to try is put in a new ribbon. This is probably the last typewriter ribbon I got at the local office supply store. It had the plastic ribbons that were meant for more contemporary typewriters, and of course I just took the ribbon off of there and used the original Oliver wooden little spools and clips. This one, of course, is missing its spools and clips, so I'll have to figure out maybe a 3D print or make my own. And I believe there's a fellow on the internet that makes these also for not too bad a price, so I might look him up. So, awkward thing here, I think, is you fish it through. You take out some of these type bars here, and you can, I believe you can fish it in through here with the I hope with the guy in there, but maybe I can't. Done this like once. I might have had to take it off. Yeah, I think I might have to take it off the spool. I think that's what I have to do. Okay, take that little clip off. Took the ribbon off, the little wooden spool here, and then I'm going to fish it through here. Somehow. And hopefully not a ton of ribbon going everywhere. There we go, and there's a little pin that goes into. And I don't know if there's like a particular preference to flipping these guys or not. Seems like whatever seems to be the least travel, and I also have to get it in the slot. So I'll get in the camera view here a bit. There we go. I think I'll go this way. Awkward world of novice ribbon installers. I'm not sure which way the ribbon is supposed to really flip on this, or if it even matters. I suspect it probably doesn't. You probably have it twist this way or twist that way, and I don't think it matters. Okay. Fish it through this side. Clip on. These modern typewriter guys also have this little rivet, which I think is just kind of like a last ditch stop. So obviously I got to fish that through this slot and get it past that slot in the ribbon can here. So I'm going to put it in there. There we go. I think I got it. Okay. Whether that's any good or not, I don't know. think I'm supposed to be on the underside of this hook. That is a pointer, I think. Maybe. Seems like this guy will be higher up. Veins on this side. Okay, so the next thing is to look into these keycaps that are missing, and what I have here is some 3D printed kind of crude replacements for the originals. Obviously they don't begin to look like the originals. I'll have to do a little bit more work on sanding and painting, or I've been thinking about getting a resin style 3D printer that would give me the resolution. Obviously with a filament type 3D printer you wind up with these finite number of steps and so forth. So, but with a little bit of maybe sanding and painting I might be able to get a little bit more closer to the ivory color and so forth. And then I'm not sure about the text unless I do the epoxy resin 3D printer. The level of detail will never be quite as high as it would need to be to have the text engraved basically into the 3D print. So the other thought would be to do what are they called? Decals. I was thinking maybe I could do decals, but until then, I guess I'll mount these guys up and see how they look. Well, they definitely do stand out, but it beats the heck out of trying to type on a metal frame. So I guess the next thing to do is probably put some paper in this guy and give it a try and see how it performs. Okay, new keycaps, oiled ribbon. I guess we're ready to go here. See if I can load this typewriter up, which I haven't done any practical, work with a typewriter in decades. And my spelling is even worse than my handwriting. So really, even in the era when I did do typewriting, it was kind of a challenge. So word processors were quite a godsend for me when they came along. But the beauty and of these older machines is just undeniable. Really quite nice. But it's also kind of amazing that people pay the sort of money they will for typewriters. I mean, this is just something that was practical for me back in the day. Obviously, I never had something quite this old and elaborate. I had something that was like a little portable with a little, briefcase type thing, and I tied my hand with that for stuff, and it was very helpful. So let's see here. The keyboard is a little more compact than I'm used to here. At least it feels tight. And the travel of the keys is definitely something to get used to here. And of course I don't have the shift key on this side. So let's see here. It's gonna be this one. Okay, hey, looking pretty good for something that's this old. Give you a little closer view here. Let's see here, we'll go through the whole keys and see how everybody's performing here. Looks like the 4 might be, the R might be hanging up a little bit. I have to work on that eventually. Okay, let's see, lock that. And it rotates the platen up very nicely. Set figures. everything's surprisingly nice. Alright. Well, you really have to get used to the travel of the keys. Again, I haven't been obviously a manual, like I was saying, a manual typewriter in a long time. I'd say that's pretty nice. Looks like maybe the P's a little low. The L or the K, I think the L is a little off. And so is the 6. You know, not too bad. And I don't see an explanation point on this guy, so I don't know how you get an explanation point. Interesting fractions too. I wonder what some of these keyboards on these guys were customized for particular businesses and so forth. And I guess there were things like a pharmacy typewriter and stuff like that. That's really very specialized keys and so forth. Okay, I'm pretty darn happy with this guy for, very little money and investment. I'm kind of looking out on this guy. It does give me a nice inspiration of what a nice machine example can be like. And so it'll give me inspiration to work on the other typewriters. The first one, my plan still is to tear the thing completely down and repaint it and everything, and maybe do the automation idea. The second typewriter, it gives me the wonderful advantage that I have obviously an assembled machine to double check the first one, so I know how to put it back together again in case you miss something. And most of all, its type bars are not bent near as I can gauge, so I will make some templates from those, and I'll probably post those on Thingiverse at some point for anyone in the future. I mean, this does look like a common problem, these typewriters getting the type bars all mangled and so forth. And then, of course, I still want to learn how to do nickel plating and various other things. And maybe I'll go back and come up with some improvements for these keycaps and so forth. I'll probably post these on Thingiverse too, just, as they are, they're somewhat useful. I was early on in all this stuff, I was playing around with it without those keycaps in there. And I'll tell you, even a keycap that doesn't really match is a lot better than trying to press down on a bare bar with a slot in it on your fingers. So I guess that's it. Thanks for watching my little project here. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did. And thanks for watching.